Ladies and gentlemen, RosterWatch Nation, welcome back to the epic RosterWatch Podcast, brought to you by RosterWatch.com. My name is Alex Dunlap, here with the Trashman, and a big show for you guys today. A couple different topics we'll go over. Now, before we do, just a reminder, if you're watching us on YouTube, you can find the podcast on Apple Podcasts. Just search for the RosterWatch Podcast. If you're listening there, if you could please give us a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts, we would be greatly appreciative. Just getting super excited for the draft coming right up. It's right around the corner. Trash man, what the hell's going on, brother?
Just enjoying a lovely sunny day here in Austin, Texas.
Yeah,
wish I could be at the Springs.
Yeah, well,
taking a dip.
You and your type aren't allowed to congregate down there anymore, Trash man. Were you one of these people going down there in all these photos where they weren't maintaining their proper social distance?
Oh no, I mean the Springs have been closed. I don't know who's been down there, but
it
shouldn't be.
Yeah, they shouldn't be. That's for sure. In Austin, it definitely takes all types around here, though. You never know.
Well, they just extended.
I think and there's that area too down below Barton Springs where all the dirt balls go with their dogs.
Barking Springs.
Yeah, so I think that might have been the photos that I saw. Regardless,
yeah, probably.
We have three different things we want to get to today. Just a quick little look at some news and notes from around the NFL. Trashman and I are each going to talk about three different players that we are targeting in trades for Dynasty right now. As the Dynasty trades are picking up, man. As we get around to the draft, we're going to have rookie drafts right after it. People are trying to get their rosters in line for identifying their needs in the rookie draft. So we're getting a ton of questions about Dynasty trades. So just a couple of maybe under the radar players we're looking to trade for in Dynasty. And then we'll also have our quick breakdowns from the rookie scouting spotlights that Trashman and I have up right now at rosterwatch.com. Most recently, D'Andre Swift, James Robinson, and JaMycal Hasty, three running backs of very different calibers in this class when looking at their skill sets. But first, just some quick news and notes. Trashman, it looks like David Johnson passed his physical, and Bill O'Brien really bragging about it, saying that he passed with flying colors and that he's just so excited to see him. What do you think? I mean, is Bill O'Brien just kind of saying all this just so he's kind of tries to not get as much blowback from the whole idiotic DeAndre Hopkins trade? And here's my question. Do you feel like Bill O'Brien's going to feel forced to just run the shit out of this guy based on what he gave up to get him?
Yeah, I think he's going to try to, keep as much crow out of his mouth as possible. And I think that entails running the wheels off of David Johnson. Hey, and then if he breaks down, then he's just, well, we just gave him, we gave him too much work, I guess. We gave him all the work we could. We overworked him. I don't know. I was surprised when David Johnson kind of tanked like he did when he did. I don't know. Maybe it was just a string of a series of unfortunate events concerning his health.
He looked so bad though when he was able to play last year, and to lose your job to Kenyon Drake in the way that he did. Just, I mean, I asked Steve Keim about that.
I don't know if he lost it.
He did lose his job.
Kenyon Drake snatched that job from his
Cliff
hands.
Kingsbury and Steve Keim both looked at me and they just said, "Are you going to take him out of the game? Are you going to take out Kenyon Drake for David Johnson from what you've seen?" And the answer is of course no. I do think with volume, how about this? I just made a Dynasty trade, and David Johnson's not on my list of guys I'm trading for, but this was a trade offer that came to me. I just got David Johnson for N'Keal Harry.
in a Dynasty?
Yeah.
That's not so bad. I mean, N'Keal Harry, he's definitely got some upside. I guess depending on who's throwing it to him, but
yeah, I mean, I understand. Yeah. I understand he has upside, but I just feel like David Johnson is somebody who, unless he has failed spectacularly, unless he has had some sort of event or some lingering sets of events that have completely ruined his physical being, or at least to what it was, 2 to 3 years ago, I'm going to be getting, 70% of David Johnson that we had seen at his peak in an offense that's going to be forcing him the football for maybe the next 2 years or so. Whereas N'Keal Harry, the quarterback situation there is now completely up in the air. I mean, I love N'Keal Harry, but the quarterback situation is at this point completely up in the air. The whole offensive situation is completely up in the air. I mean, today the win total for the New England Patriots this coming season, I just saw Pro Football Talk tweeted, has been the lowest it's been in like 17 years. They have an 8.5 win total over under.
That'll probably still win the division.
Shit, man, Buffalo's eyes are as wide as saucers looking at that AFC East right now. I think.
That's true. I feel like. Well, do you think David Johnson, he's an RB2? I mean, do you think he's verges on the territory of RB1? Are you that bullish on him?
No, but I think he could. I think he could legitimately be a candidate for RB2-ish numbers this year. I think he probably should be.
So do you feel? So are you putting him there with like where Lamar Miller has been for the past 3 seasons?
No, I like it better. I think the question you need to ask yourself is: would you rather have David Johnson? Or would you rather have David Johnson or Damian Williams right now before the NFL draft? You know that the Texans aren't drafting a running back, whereas the Chiefs probably will. James Conner. I mean, doesn't David Johnson, knowing how the Texans are probably going to use him, doesn't he seem like probably a safer bet than even James Conner, who we've gotten word from people close to that organization and people who report on the Steelers that. I mean, there's got to be a post David Johnson plan.
I feel like Connor and Johnson are right about the same level for me right now.
What about Chris Carson or Raheem Mostert? Would you rather have him than one of those guys? I kind of think I would.
Then both?
Yeah.
Mostert
I worry about the fact that a guy like Brock Eward, who is close to the team there for Seattle, has said that, bet on it that they're going to draft a running back. I don't like the fact that Rashad Penny is a former first-round pick. I know he's going to be coming off injury, but there should be something. I mean, that guy's out of sight, out of mind, but they spent a first-round pick on him. We know that these idiots pick running backs like crazy. I don't think Chris Carson's job is particularly safe. And then Raheem Mostert, he's been practice squad and special teams fodder for his whole entire career to this point.
So Damian Williams, basically.
Well, all right.
I feel like I'm skeptical about David Johnson's abilities right now. If David Johnson
to stay healthy, or just ability, or the fact that he looked like he crapped his pants last season when he was healthy.
The fact that he looked like he crapped his pants.
Well, that's fair. I mean, he looked bad when he was supposedly healthy last year. So, I mean, I can understand that. But
like right now,
Bill O'Brien says he passed with flying colors.
Right now, I'd pick a healthy Raheem Mostert over David Johnson right now.
I'm not sure that I can. With all the running backs that they have there and people getting healthy and everything. I mean, do you have no faith that guys like Tevin Coleman? I think Matt Breida is not. Can they? Hey,
Tevin Coleman was back in that mix late last season, and Mostert still produced. I'm not.
But he only produced whenever he got in the games and he was able to outproduce him. Kyle Shanahan even said that we went with the hot hand. It's like in some games he might not get the hot hand, right? Doesn't that have to be true? He's going to be a committee back regardless. I think David Johnson.
I feel like he had the hot hand whenever he was in. I feel like he's going to be the de facto.
So you just think Raheem Mostert's just straight up better than Tevin Coleman, better than any of these other assholes? I mean, if that's the case, it's fine. I think they're both back end running back shoes right now.
Can you take him off the field?
They're both back-end running back twos right now. What I'm looking for in my back-end running back twos is assured volume. I don't feel like I want to base the assumption of volume with Raheem Mostert on the fact that he develops a hot hand and can keep the hot hand through a whole football game. I think that the volume is going to come from David Johnson.
He had the hot hand every time he was in.
All right, fair enough. What about
if you're not taking Kenyon Drake out, you're not taking Raheem Mostert out. What's up?
How about Lance Zierleins' tweet? He only one team he's spoken to. Once again, roster watch ahead of the curve on Antonio Gibson, talking about him since the Senior Bowl. Only one team that Lance Zierleins talked to sees him in any sort of wide receiver type of position. And get this, our comp from in the stands at the Senior Bowl of kind of a little bit of a Joe Mixon was the same comp that he got from one NFL coach on Antonio Gibson. Your thoughts?
Well, I thought Antonio Gibson is an amazing athlete. I think he's somebody, if you coach him up, I think he's a little bit raw. And he actually didn't play the position that much comparatively to a lot of these guys coming into the draft. But I think he's somebody who's got a lot of natural talent, and he's got good vision. I think he's somebody, if you put him in the right place, is going to thrive. He's got home run hitting, explosiveness, and ability for every play. So he's, the more I think about him, the more he kind of reminds me. I mean, I think he could have like a Le'Veon Bell type role on an offense.
Yeah, dude, he's big. He weighs what, 228, 223 pounds, something like that. I mean, he's a big dude. Antonio Gibson is 6 foot, 228 pounds. He's a big beastly guy that runs a 4.39 and an 84th percentile athlete among wide receivers. I love Antonio Gibson. I'm glad that we're so high on him. I'm glad we've been so high on him, and I'm glad that we were the ones that brought him to everybody's attention from this. You were screaming from the mountaintops about this fucking guy for months. I'm
hey, him and Denzel Mims.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Denzel Mims, what about the Bob McGinn article? Every year, Bob McGinn has an awesome article where he polls all these NFL executives and asks them about these different players and stuff. And it turns out that not only we're getting the word from Ian Rappaport that Denzel Mims played through a broken hand last year, which is just crazy to think about when you saw the highlight reel sideline catches he was able to make. Like, you do that with a broken hand, what the hell's wrong with you? But one scout told the Athletics' Bob McGinn that he believes Baylor Mims is better than CeeDee Lamb and maybe better than Jerry Jeudy. That's the write-up on Roto World via The Athletic. Bob McGinn's article, always awesome there. You get a lot of insight on players, and he really does talk to a bunch of these scouts. Of course, that's just one scout's opinion, but interesting.
That's not just one scout's opinion.
Yeah, well, Yep. It's also your opinion, and you watch about as much of this stuff as a lot of these guys. I know that there was also in that same report, though, some people thinking that maybe he could be kind of a boomer bust, bust.
Yeah, I think that. I mean, I think he's a high upside guy. He definitely could be boomer bust. He could. I mean, and I compared him a lot to a guy who has been kind of seen as boom or bust in the NFL up until very recently, and that was Devontae Parker. There was actually the last guy that I reviewed kind of reminds me a little bit of Mims in the way I kind of get excited watching him. I don't think we'll talk about him today. Next time, next pod. Next
time. All right. Well, that's cool. I'm glad because I know who it is, and I'm glad you like him because he's a sick man. All right, let's get on to these dynasty buys. So I guess David Johnson. I'm not going to use that as one, but David Johnson's a player who I have bought in the last day in Dynasty, just for the reasons we discussed earlier. And plus, I just thought, man, the guy sent me the offer for N'Keal Harry. I just kind of sat there. I'm like, how long can I really think about this? We're talking about it. I have a lot of good wide receiver depth. I'm not a guy that really likes to sit and wait on receivers. I'm more apt to sit and wait around on running backs and get these more established wide receivers, as we've talked about a lot before. So I'm not going to go with him, but how about this one a little bit deeper? Joe Mixon is now saying he's going to hold out. The Bengals are cheap. Are they going to pay? I mean, if he asks for anything like Christian McCaffrey money, they're going to laugh him out of the goddamn room. That's for sure.
Is anybody going to make Christian McCaffrey money?
Well, Christian McCaffrey is going to make it. He's going to earn every cent.
Is he? I don't know if he can. I don't know if he can even earn every cent.
If anybody can, it's Christian McCaffrey. He's 1,000-yard receiver on top of being on top.
Well, I guess they kind of are paying him like an upper echelon. Well,
he's
pretty
an
high upper echelon receiver.
What his agent had to say is that he's an offensive weapon. I saw a tweet from one of the Rivals guys earlier today saying, like, do you think we were off in making Christian McCaffrey a 4-star instead of a 5-star? And then like posted the article about it. I'm like, I can save you a click with reading this article. Of course you were wrong. How did you not make this kid a fucking 5-star? But here's the fact of the matter. Joe Mixon's not going to get paid like that. He might want to get paid something close to that. He's probably going to want Zeke money, which is cockamamie. He's not as good as Zeke. What about trading right now on the complete cheap for Trayveon Williams and or a golden son, Rodney Anderson?
Oh, Rodney Anderson! Wow, I still feel like the Bengals.
They can tell Joe Mixon, no way, man.
I feel like the Bengals are kind of. I feel like AJ Green isn't the player he used to be. I feel like Mixon is the face of the Bengals right now, especially with that run.
The Bengals.
Who is
kind of an awkward joke? It's going to be Joe Burrow. Joe Mixon is a very troublesome face to have as the face of your franchise.
Hey, the Bengals have never had issues with that in the past.
Well, fair enough, but it's guys like
this is the team that took on Pac-Man and kept him there, and he was a little trouble there.
I understand. We got Keith D16 in the chat saying Mixon should get $12 million per.
Woo!
It's pretty hefty, Keith D16. I mean, it's just these running backs. It's like, do we just look at a Super Bowl where? Do we just look at a Super Bowl where both starting running backs were just basically undrafted, kind of low contract guys? It's like, I mean, you pay these guys $12 million per. I don't know, man. I could see a scenario where he's maybe not long for that team, or just in Dynasty where you get to keep these guys forever. We love Trayveon coming out. We loved Rodney Anderson coming out. I think there could be a little bit of a buy window right now, just in case Joe Mixon's future with the team has any uncertainty. Both those players are awesome. Both those guys are.
I don't see them getting rid of Mixon. I don't think they can get rid of Mixon.
You could get Trayveon right now for a 2021 third or something like that.
That's true. I mean, I'm just saying. I don't think they're getting rid of Mixon anytime soon. He's too good. I mean, honestly, down the stretch there, was there anybody? I mean, it was Christian McCaffrey. Who was anybody's putting up? I mean, maybe Kenyon Drake that was putting up numbers like Joe Mixon, to the.
Well, but that's because they were trying to tank and lose the rest of the season, and they were just handing him the football 35 times and beg of losses versus New England.
That's what they're doing with Chris McCaffrey. I feel like Mixon can put up those kind of numbers if they're using him like someone like a Christian McCaffrey on a regular basis. I think he's a great pass catcher. It's like the Derrick Henry thing. Once they realize what they have with a running back like that,
he's going to hold out.
It's hard to take him off the field.
He's going to hold out, and if he holds out more than a few games, you could even use Trayveon early in the season.
That's fine. I think you can get those guys cheap. So I mean, it doesn't bother me.
I don't think that the negotiations with the Brown family and Joe Mixon's agent are going to be the same as the negotiations between Tepper and McCaffrey's agent. It's just it's not the same. He's not the same kind of offensive weapon. I don't think it's going to get done amicably. I don't think it's going to get done early. I think this thing's going to be a fight. So I like those guys. What do you think? Who are you buying right now in Dynasty? Looking to, or at least looking to trade for?
Darius Slayton.
Okay. Do you feel like his value is depressed, or is this because you love him so much?
I don't feel like it's depressed. I think it's, I think a lot of people are still sleeping on Slayton. And I just think like there's few players that I get excited about seeing on the field like I do with Darius Slayton. I think he's only just starting to get going. I think he's somebody who, when they start getting close to double-digit targets. I mean, he didn't really get – it wasn't until week 10 of last season that he saw double-digit targets. And he kind of hovered around there for the rest of the season. But, I mean, just there weren't many receivers who were, I think, as exciting as he was and have as high upside as he does on a team that a lot of people are still questionable about. I just think he's somebody that if you can get at a pretty reasonable price right now, and he's somebody who can turn up for you every week in a big way.
Current best ball ADP. Let me just look and see what do you think Slayton's current ADP is in best ball? 90.89. So we're talking. Let's see, 96 is the end of the 8th round, so mid 8th round ADP, and that sort of setup. So probably a little bit higher in dynasty startups. I'd imagine you could probably get him for a 2023rd. I think you probably need to give up a second to get him if we're just talking straight rookie picks. I don't. Do you think a third will get it done?
I think so. Well, with a lot of people, I think not with people that are too savvy, but I think with somebody who doesn't pay as much attention to some of these upcoming wide receivers as we do, I think it's somebody you could slip through in a trade.
For me, everybody seems so concerned about the San Francisco 49ers taking a wide receiver in this draft. I think if Jalen Hurd is healthy, Lord Jalen cometh, we're going to get a big year out of him. I'm interested. I've already traded for Jalen Hurd in every dynasty league that I'm in. Just from the athleticism, from the way he can be used, for how perfectly he fits into Shanahan's system on a team that could really use a guy that's just a big, imposing player who can play in the X and play as a big slot with as much as they can move around guys like Deebo Samuel, the things that they can do matchup-wise with a player like Jalen Hurd to play off of him. And then if you just go back and watch some of the preseason stuff or go back and watch any of our pro day highlights, if he's healthy, and that's a big question mark because it was a back injury that he was still dealing with even at the very end of last season. But if Jalen Hurd, the wide receiver who will be the second-year wide receiver for the San Francisco 49ers, the guy who they spent a third-round pick on last year that they were super high on, look, he's a beast, and I'm interested in acquiring him right now because I'm getting him as a throw-in, and I'm getting him for basically free. Do you have any thoughts at all about Jalen Hurd or if he could fit in there, or do you think that they're going to be drafting a wide receiver for sure, like everybody else seems to? I'm not sure that they're going to. They went with two of those guys with 2 straight bullets last year.
You mean Jalen Hurd?
Yeah.
I said Jalen Hurd with it.
Yeah,
Jalen Hurd with the T.
It's easy to get. Yeah.
It was a I guess a poor attempt at a joke.
Oh, okay. I thought you were getting mixed up with Jalen Hurts. Okay.
No. I still feel like they haven't given up on Dante Pettis.
They should. You guys suck.
I feel like they still haven't given up on him. And Deebo Samuel, I still feel is working his way up through that offense. I don't hate putting some investment in Hurd though. But I do think that
he's free. He's free. Free.
I do think they'll probably add help in the wide receiver department, but I feel like they could. Hurd still deserves a chance to produce in that offense, and hopefully they have a quarterback who can produce with him, give him something to produce with.
George Kittle just says all this talks cockamamie that Jimmy G's, all those guys think Jimmy G's awesome as far as what George Kittle says, if you can believe him. What do you think? You got 2 more of these guys. I got 1 more. Who's your next dynasty trade target?
Mecole Hardman.
I'm not sure how cheap you can get him.
You don't think so? What?
I personally think right now he's overvalued.
Well, I
he's
feel
going
like
much higher in these
like
dynasty startups than I'm comfortable taking him.
I
mean,
feel like
I've
he
seen him
might
go
drop a
above
little bit
Marquise
now that Watkins' contract has been restructured. I feel like people are gonna maybe think that it's gonna be another year before his breakout, and it might be before he fully breaks out. But I don't know that there was a player who was quite as efficient as he was on SU targets as he got last season. It was just pretty uncanny the way that, if you plugged Hardman in and daily, there was a good chance that, that 1 or 2 targets he got, he was going to pop off. And I just feel like if you can even just get him a handful of targets on a game with that kind of efficiency, I feel like he's only going to continue to improve, even with Watkins still kind of, I guess, being the du jour wide receiver 2 there in Kansas City.
He had so at the Raiders, he had a 17-pointer. At Baltimore, he had an 18-pointer. Versus Indy, he had 11.3. At Denver, he had 10.8. Green Bay, he had 13.5. At Tennessee, he had 13.3. And then at New England, he had 11.8. So out of all the games you could have started him in daily, not counting the Super Bowl, that's 17. So 16. He had 15 games in the season. He missed 1 game. He had 2 games in the divisional playoffs, the conference championships. He got you a reasonable game, so a game of at least 10 fantasy points in PPR. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 out of 17. Not quite what I would really like from a distribution standpoint, but you are right in the fact that some of those games were like versus Baltimore. Remember that game? He had 2 receptions and 97 yards for a touchdown, right? To get you like an 18-pointer. It didn't take much for that guy. In fact, the most receptions he had in the game last season was just 4, which is kind of wild looking back at it. That was his high number of receptions last year was just 4. But
and he caught most of the passes that were thrown to him.
My next guy is, and we talk about him a lot, I feel like on this podcast, but it's just because I love him as a player and I feel like he's in a situation where he's getting swindled. Do you know who this is?
No, but I'm guessing. I don't think it's the same guy that I picked, but
I'm buying Kareem Hunt in every dynasty league that I can. I've bought him in every dynasty league that I can because I feel like people are still married to the idea that he's in his backfield mate with Nick Chubb and that he is, that his role has been relegated, and it certainly has to some degree. But I think that Kareem Hunt is going to be biting in to more of Nick Chubb's workload this year than some people think. He's only on a 1-year deal, $3.5 million. Kareem Hunt is still only 24 years old. He's gonna be on a new team with a new contract at age 25, still a good 2 to 3 years off from the age apex. He's gonna be somebody's starting runner and a stud starting runner in the year 2021, right? Why am I not buying him for like a 2nd-round rookie pick right now? Or I took him in like the 7th round of a dynasty startup the other day. I said, I can't believe this is still Kareem Hunt. It's still Kareem Hunt. And you're just giving him to me on a silver platter. Thank you. Thank you for giving
that's a good one. That's a good one. I mean, yeah, Kareem Hunt is a starter on any other team.
Well, he's not on the Panthers, but the Panthers are going to go out and get him. The Saints are going to go out and get him, right? Like
maybe the Bengals will. Somebody
he get to stay in Ohio, close to all those casinos he likes to get in trouble in.
And Nizri, 23. I hope I'm saying that right. He says he's betting me 2 Jersey Mike sandwiches. McLaurin outperforms Amari Cooper this season.
No, that's interesting. Think about his name. It's not in it. It's Ani Shri.
Oh, okay. Is that Ani?
Yeah. What up, Ani?
Hey, Ani. Oh, man.
All right. So that's my Kareem Hunt take.
And that's funny. I actually considered having McLaurin as my 3rd guy. But I don't know that quarterback situation is going to shore itself up this season.
No.
Somebody who I do think is going to pick it up this season, though, is Nyheim Hines. He was the third guy I went with that I feel like you should be angling for in Dynasty. With Phillip Rivers under center, I think they're probably going to be a little less conservative on that offense. And, just with the way Phillip Rivers has been running his offense, in fact, he likes to dump off quite a bit. And I feel like Nyheim Hines is going to be the recipient of quite a few of those.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think it goes without saying that Nyheim Hines is probably a good buy right now. I think if you're in a super sharp league, I think that narrative's starting to get out there that he could be an Austin Ekeler. And certainly if your league, if the owner doesn't value him or doesn't have a sneaky feeling about him, see if you can get him as a throw-in. I definitely agree. All right, on to these rookies. Let's just fire through them, Trashman. Let's start with the best one, DeAndre Swift out of Georgia, 5'8.25", 212 pounds. Ran the 4.48 40, basically a 60th percentile athlete at the NFL Combine. My comparison for him was Alvin Kamara. He just reminds me so much of Kamara with the way just the stop start, the cuts, the shiftiness. I've already had a podcast with Byron where we've gone over him in depth. So I think, you can go back to listen to episode 236, I think, with Byron and I, if you want to hear my complete thoughts on DeAndre Swift, but interested in hearing Trashman's thoughts. And are you pretty much chalking him up as your number 2 running back, at least thus far? Or do you think he's going to stick there? Your thoughts on DeAndre Swift?
Yeah, he's easily my number 2 right now. He's just so shifty, and he's just got such good vision, I think, and such a high football IQ. You just see him working out there, and you can see kind of the cogs working as he's running through these defenses. It's hard to find, I think, a guy of his size who can move themselves through space as well as he does with his stops and starts and just his quick cutbacks, his spinning moves, and he's got great strong arms and he hurdles people. He's just, he's a complete package. My one knock against him was that he didn't have the kind of work in Georgia like he did. I mean, not like Jonathan Taylor did. We haven't seen Swift with the full load, and so that's my only kind of knock against him really at this point. But from what we've seen, it's hard to, I think, find another player who's as evasive as he is, but yet that still runs with power and with speed and precision.
And probably among the guys at the very top, probably the most reliable pass catcher and
route. He's a really good route runner.
He gets up to speed so fast. Just the stop, start, getting up to speed. It's a different kind of evasive than an Eno Benjamin, even though he kind of reminds you a little bit of, the way he can just cut on a dime, right? It reminds you a little bit of Eno, but he gets up to speed so much. He accelerates so much differently. Like he operates in a different realm, a whole different sphere than Eno Benjamin does as far as just getting back up to speed, right? He's awesome to watch, and my comp form's Alvin Kamara. I think those guys are elusive and they're unique runners in a similar way. I know it's hard to make a stylistic comp to Alvin Kamara simply because he is such a unique runner. But I think DeAndre Swift has been the closest I've seen since Alvin Kamara came out, and we've got to see him in the NFL.
Mine was Dalvin Cook. I felt that they kind of have similar player profiles. They're not really power backs, but they run with pop, and they can take it through the house at any point, really. And this is a guy who's just really shifty, and a guy who you look at just standing there, and maybe you're not like he's not that physically imposing, but yet he somehow manages to pick up a lot of run yards after either contact or the catch. So that was a comparison for me.
Let's move on to JaMycal Hasty.
One more thing, just the fact that you're able to produce on an offense along with guys like Nick Chubb, Elijah Holyfield, and Sony Michel, and still, make a name for yourself. That's impressive to me.
Not the Elijah Holyfield part, right? But the other. No, I mean, look, we We thought Elijah Holyfield was a decent player in a 4.89.
That's championship. That's world championship pedigree.
JaMycal Hasty, the running back out of Baylor, he's 5'8", 205. Ran a 4.55 40, but it was the other drills where he really showed out really well. A 95th percentile 20-yard shuttle, a 90th percentile vertical jump. I mean, this guy's a 90th percentile spark athlete, a little bit older. He's going to turn 23 on September 12th of this year. And also not productive, not productive within the structure of the Baylor offense. Only 811 total yards last year and 7 touchdowns. That's only a 14% market share of the team's total yardage compared to this next guy we'll talk about. That's absolutely puny. Only 12% of the touchdowns, but does have a little bit of Duke Johnson to his game that we were able to notice at the Senior Bowl. What are your thoughts on JaMycal Hasty? I don't have much to say about him. I kind of like him as a probably a future satellite back, or maybe somebody that could have a little bit of pop for us in DFS if it turns out that he's a primary backup somewhere, or sort of a backup that's also like a satellite back that maybe 1 week where a starter's injured, we hear he could be getting 15 touches, somebody that we could play at men's salary. But besides that, I'm not going out guns blazing to make sure that I can get my hands on JaMycal Hasty in any form of fantasy right now.
No, actually, Duke Johnson was actually my comp for JaMycal Hasty. I feel like he's a third down back, but he's one that could produce. He's one, like a Duke Johnson on a pretty regular basis. I just don't see him as the guy you're going to angle for as anything higher than your running back 3. Regardless of where he lands.
Yeah, and not right out of the gate. He won't be a running back 3 out of the gate. I don't know. I'm not even sure he'll be on a. He'll be on a 53-man roster, but it's the kind of thing where he's gonna need to fall in somewhere, get a job, show it in preseason. It'll be a slow drip with that guy, but I think he could get up to that. What the comp was on Mock Draftable that I thought was kind of fitting? What about Donald Brown? Do you remember Donald Brown with the thing?
Yeah, I could see that. What I do like about Hasty is that he's so athletic. I feel like a player, he's kind of a player who's been, I'm going to say underestimated, but he's a guy who's athletic enough. I think in the right position, he could be someone who, you put in there in your flex, on a semi-weekly basis, depending on where he is, and could pop off for you.
His I love this. His comp on Player Profiler is Fozzie Whitaker. That's a good comp. A blast from the past for us boys down here in Austin. That's probably, dude. That's kind of. Fozzie was an NFL player for how many years? 6, 7. I can see JaMycal Hasty having a similar type of career. I believe he has the same agents as I believe Team Sports. I'm pretty sure that they also were Fozzie's agent. So interesting there. All right. Finally, James Robinson, Illinois State, the Redbirds, Trashman. How fired up are you for the man with the biggest thighs I've seen since Darius guys?
Since Darius guys, who had big thighs too was for the Jacksonville Jaguars running behind Reichwell.
Yeah, he has some thighs. James Robinson has bigger thighs than Reichwell Armstead. I can tell you that with 100% certainty.
Wow.
Examine them both closely.
Well, he does have. Well, it's hard for him to get those legs off the ground. You see him running, and it's like he's a little bit like a little bit of a tiptoe burglar. He doesn't get those feet very high. It's kind of funny to watch him, but he kind of glides. He kind of glides when he runs, which is kind of interesting for a guy of his, his build. He's like a little bowling ball out there, just the way he doesn't get his feet that high off the ground.
5'9", 219, 88th percentile spark athlete, even though he only ran a 4.64 at the combine. He looks like he's much faster than 4.64 on the football field, but I think
he can jump.
his level of competition is just so shitty. I mean, that's an FCS program. Like, I think he looks faster because those other guys are so slow. Still, 1,979 total offensive yards last season. That was 43% of his team's total offensive production. Like, compare that to JaMycal Hasty 14%. I think that's what I was talking about earlier. And 53% of his team's touchdowns. He had 18 touchdowns last season. Also, I mean, even though he only had
too many
touches.
Touches.
A whole lot of touches, man. He got a whole lot of touches. He's got a lot of tread on the tires. I'm not sure he's an elite level athlete, despite the great testing. I'm not sure he's played football at a level where it really translates. I thought you made a good point in your column about Bruce Anderson last year. Do you remember his tape when you watched that?
Oh, I was.
You watched the tape versus Eastern Washington, and you're like, whoa! Like
I was blown away by Anderson.
Like, I can't wait to see this dude at the Senior Bowl. It's like he didn't do anything through the process. He can't even get a starting job over Dario Ogunbowale, or a job on a 53-man roster over a guy like Dario Ogunbowale. So it's like, I think Bruce Anderson is a good, cautionary tale before you get too excited about what you see on tape out of James Robinson. With that being said, I see enough there where I'm interested in maybe stashing him, where I have roster space, where I can maybe get him for free, because we've seen these guys like Darrell Williams, who's not as good a prospect as Robinson. I don't think, even though he played at LSU, all this, Darrell Williams was just so much slower. There have been weeks where like he fell to a team in the Chiefs where everybody else is kind of hurt. And if he wouldn't have gotten hurt, there were weeks where you could have played him in DFS. You could have played him in fantasy. James Robinson is the type of player who, if he gets into that situation, unlike Darrell Williams, could take advantage. He could earn himself a 2-down role in the National Football League.
Yeah, I feel like it's really going to depend on where he lands. He's one of these guys who's going to be team dependent for me. But he's a guy. He's not going to do much for you in the receiving game. So, like you said, he's going to be a 2-down back. I don't see a 3-down back future for Robinson. But I think he's a guy on the right team. I think he can be a goal line guy. I think he can be a 2-down guy. I think he can be a guy who could surprise a lot of people in the NFL.
All right, I think we can just end it there. Perfect. All right, so we hit everything. To everybody still watching on YouTube, thank you, or Periscope, man, thank you guys. Shout out to Ani Sridhar, the goat of all the radio producers, our guy on Sirius XM.
Who are all those girls in that picture with you? That's what I want to know.
That's what Trashman's always wondering. Who are the ladies? So to everybody watching on YouTube, thank you guys. If you could comment, like, subscribe on YouTube, we definitely appreciate that. It helps our content to be seen, which is the ultimate goal. And make sure to subscribe to the podcast, the RosterWatch Podcast, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever it is you listen. So with that said, love you guys, man. Thank you so much. We will talk to you soon. Peace.
See you.